The storm was already gathering when Anne Dufresne and her mother stepped off the train in Paris rain, curling off the station roof, thunder crouching somewhere behind the clouds. They had traveled from London, stopping only briefly along the way, both tired, both hungry, both eager to reach their hotel and rest. But what neither woman knew was that this single night in a foreign city, would become the center of one of the strangest disappearance cases Europe has ever whispered about, a case investigators still argue over, a case historians try to cover with logic, a case storytellers never stop retelling, because one of them would vanish behind a hotel door that, by morning, would not exist. When Anne's mother, Madeleine, entered the lobby of the Hotel du Palais Royal, she was breathing heavily, her face flushed with a feverish shade Anne had never seen before. The journey, long and tiring, had drained her strength. The concierge noticed immediately, a thin man with sunken eyes and a polite but distant smile. He walked around his desk and offered the women water, insisting that rest was all Madeleine needed. Anne nodded gratefully, but something in his expression unsettled her. The man never blinked. Not once. They were given room 342. Anne supported her mother up the creaking staircase, and the moment they entered the room, Madeleine collapsed onto the bed, shaking, whispering something Anne couldn't understand, something about a smell in the hotel. Something wrong, something chemical. Anne placed a cool cloth on her mother's forehead, then hurried downstairs to summon a doctor. That was the last time she ever saw her mother alive. The concierge looked surprised when Anne demanded help, not surprised by the urgency, but as if confused by the very idea that someone in their hotel needed assistance. Still, he nodded and said he would arrange for a doctor, but as she waited in the lobby, something odd happened. The atmosphere changed. The employees moved differently, no longer the mildly distant but polite individuals she met earlier. Instead, they glanced at her in quick, nervous flashes. Some whispered behind her. Others avoided her entirely. An hour passed, a second, and a third. The doctor never came. Anne rushed upstairs to return to her mother, but as she climbed the steps, she felt the wooden railing trembling beneath her fingers, as though the building itself was shifting or resisting her. By the time she reached the third floor, her pulse hammered against her ribs. She turned the corner to room 342 and froze. Her room was gone. Not just locked, not just cleaned out. Gone. Where the door once stood, there was now a wall smooth, newly painted, and cold to the touch. The room had been erased, sealed as if it had never existed. Anne stumbled backward, breath caught in her chest. She scanned the hallway again, counting the doors. Room 338. Room 340. Then room 344. Room 342 had vanished. Panicking, she ran downstairs, shouting that her mother was missing, that their room had disappeared, that something was wrong. The concierge stared at her with narrow eyes. "Madame," he said calmly, "you arrived alone." The words were like a punch to the chest. "What?" she stammered. "My mother, she was sick. We checked in together." He simply shook his head. "You arrived alone." "No. She's in the room. I left only to find a doctor." He sighed, as though dealing with a troublesome child. "Madame, you have been mistaken. We have no record of another guest under your reservation." Anne demanded the hotel ledger. He showed it to her. There it was, in neat handwriting. One guest, Annie Dufresne. No companion. No additional occupant. Her mother had been arrested not only from the hallway upstairs, but from the hotel's memory. Anne screamed and grabbed the man's uniform, begging him to listen, but he simply nodded to the bellboys, and they gently restrained her, not with violence but with the expression of those used to handling hysterical foreigners. "Madame, please," the concierge insisted. "You arrived alone." Anne fled into the street, running into the rain, searching for help. She approached policemen. They questioned her, took notes, frowned. When they questioned the hotel staff, every single employee said the same thing. She arrived alone. She stayed alone. She booked the room alone. There was no mother. No illness. No room 342. The police eventually suggested exhaustion, trauma from traveling, maybe even delirium. Anne insisted. 4 hours. Days. Weeks. Her mother had vanished, taken, hidden, something. But no one would listen, or maybe no one dared. Years passed, and never returned to England. She remained in Europe, searching orphaned records, archives, any trace of her mother. She grew thinner, paler, obsessed. She died in France, alone, still insisting on the truth. Eventually, her story became a rumor, a tale told among travelers, the woman whose mother disappeared into a hotel wall. But here's the part: most people never hear the part buried in old government files and hidden medical journals. The week Anne's mother vanished, Paris was battling a silent outbreak of a dangerous, highly contagious illness. Only high officials knew. If detected in the hotel, it would have forced an emergency quarantine and international panic. So, did the hotel staff abduct a dying woman to keep the secret contained? Did doctors move her to a government facility in the dead of night? Did the hotel erase the room to prevent contamination? Or is the entire story fabricated by a distressed traveler who simply broke under stress? There are no answers, no files, no witnesses, no death certificate for Madeleine Dufresne. Only one chilling detail survives. Decades later, during a renovation of the old hotel, workers broke through a sealed wall. Behind it, they found a small, forgotten chamber. Inside lay a metal bed frame, a cracked porcelain basin, and a single embroidered glove belonging to a woman who had vanished from history. A glove that matched exactly the description of the one Anne said her mother had been wearing the night she disappeared. A glove found in the space where room 342 used to be. And, just like that, the legend became a wound in the city's folklore, a story varnished with dread and unanswered questions. A vanishing woman, a sealed room, a hotel that rewrote reality. Some say the staff were silenced. Some say Anne's mother died, and the government buried the truth. And some, not many, but some believe the room wasn't removed or sealed, but that it slipped into a different place entirely. A place where the door still exists. A place where the sick are taken and never returned. A place that occasionally appears and disappears in hotels around the world. So if you ever travel alone, listen carefully. If you hear faint coughing behind a wall where no room exists, if you see a door number skipped in the hallway, if you feel someone walking beside you though no one is there, you might be closer to room 342 than you think. And whatever happened behind that wall might still be happening, because some rooms are never truly empty. Some disappearances never end, and some hotels remember things, even when everyone else tries to forget. This is HushAtlas, where stories never sleep, and neither should your curiosity.